Rachel, hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming to see us today. You're our fifth interview, I think, of six. And the project's called People Like Us. And the idea is to share people's stories and experiences of how they came to Essex. And we're really grateful that you agreed to be part of the project.
Yeah, I'm glad to be a part of it.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit, first of all, about where you were born?
So for me, I was born in Bedfordshire, Luton to be exact, which is about an hour north of London.
Right, okay. And tell us about growing up and what stories you remember, like what's your earliest memory?
Growing up for me was pretty turbulent, not unlike most people. Because I've lived in 5 different parts of the UK. Okay. Attended 16 different schools and 10 different houses lived in.
Wow.
Yeah.
All before the age of?
Up to the age of 18.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you tell us how that came to pass?
Yeah, so it's stuff that I don't know even to this day. So things that went on with my mother and father before I was born. Okay. Like relationship breakdown. They became divorced, and then it was just literally moving from place to place with myself and my 5 other siblings. Okay. Yeah.
So you were taken from your parents into?
No, so I've always lived with my mother and then siblings up to the age 15. Right. And then I decided I've had enough, I want to go and experience life with my father. Right. So then I literally just walked out of our house, never came back, and went to live with my dad for 2 years. Yeah. But then it never worked out, so then I went into the system at 17. Okay. Yeah, now I'm a care leaver.
Right. So why were you moving around so much then, do you think?
She wanted to do work. She just self-centered around herself, and she just wanted to move from place to place to try and be famous and just live her best life and didn't think about us kids.
Right. So you've got 5 brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you got close relationships with them?
No, so we're all half siblings, except for my youngest brother. So my oldest is 32, and then the youngest is 16. So we're not that close, but we do talk from time to time. Okay.
So you're spread around then?
Yeah, we are.
So what was your schooling like then? What was your favourite school that you went to?
I think my favourite school was one in Birmingham because I spent the longest there that I remember. Okay. So I was there from year 4 all the way up to the end, year 6. So it was really a fun experience. Yeah. Because Brummies are they're such characters. And then also I have a younger brother, so we're only 2 years apart in schooling. So I was in year 6, he was in year 4, and we always used to get on each other's nerves.
Really?
Yeah. So competitive.
Really?
Yeah.
So you mentioned Birmingham. What other places did you live?
The furthest north is Manchester I've lived. Okay. And then the furthest south is Essex.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's been your favourite place?
I would say I've 3 favourites. I can't narrow down to one. Okay. I would say my first is Luton, because obviously I'm born there. Who wouldn't like where they're born?
Yeah, of course.
Then my next one is Essex. I love Essex.
Good.
And then Birmingham.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I suppose the positive would be then of your upbringing is you've got to experience lots of different communities.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And they're all very, very different. Some are very diverse, multicultural, but then others are more predominantly to one culture or one ethnic group.
Yeah. So you all the different schools you went to, how did that affect your education, do you think?
It affected it a great deal. But I've just tried hard. Yeah. And come out of it the other side. Got into school. Yeah. Which obviously for some people going through what I've gone through, most people would give up easily, but I just love education. But then also I think because I've missed out on so much, I have a different viewpoint of education. Yes. Some people just do it because they have to. Yeah. But I know that it gets me to a better place. So
definitely. So while we're on education, what's your passion in education? What you're most interested in?
I like media.
Ah, okay.
And that's what I'm currently studying alongside maths and English.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your hopes for the future? To
newspaper journalist.
Ah.
I love research. I love news.
Yeah.
I love just people.
Yeah.
So
that's good
yeah.
Then. Well, we could do with a bit of help with media, couldn't we? So that we could get you back for that.
Yes, you can.
So, what do you like to do for your recreation?
So I like to go out with friends and see family.
Yeah.
I like films.
Yeah. What's your favourite film?
I like loads of films, but my favourite genre is action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you think of any off the top of your head?
Fast and Furious.
Okay. Plenty of them to choose from.
Yeah. And then a recent one I watched was Black Widow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. So, do you what was your experience then of the care system? So you came into it relatively late. You were, did you say 15 or 17?
I was 17.
17. So you were older then, weren't you?
Yeah.
And how did you find that?
I found it okay because luckily for me, I didn't experience a lot of what most care leavers or people in care experience, because most people are chucked from house to house to house, carer to carer to carer. Whereas for me, because I came in relatively late, I went straight into semi-independent, which is basically a house for kids just before you go into your own house post 18.
Yeah,
so
I see.
it was pretty all right for me.
Yeah, it was calm.
Yeah. The only thing was I just had like 3 different like social workers, but that's general. Like, because obviously I came in so late. Yeah. Literally, it was just I met one, and then it was, okay, Rachel, I have to leave now. Go to my other team. Yeah. But then I got a personal advisor, and I'll have her turn 25. So that's good. Good experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd say it was fairly positive. Yeah. Then. Yeah. So going back to your family, do you know much about your family history?
I know that part Jamaican, part Spanish.
Wow.
And then some are born elsewhere, and then some are born obviously in England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know kind of many stories or where in Spain or?
I know that the Jamaican side of my family, most of them came round when the Windrush, thing happened. So they came because they were called obviously by the British government to come to the UK. Right. And then they've been there ever since.
Okay. So do you know their experiences of that?
Not completely, because I'm still getting to know them, because I've not been brought up around my family much, because due to living with my mother and moving from place to place. But yeah, I'm getting to know them, and it's ongoing.
There could be some potential there to learn a little bit more.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So do you know much about the, did you say Jamaica? Did you say yes? Do you know much about where in Jamaica and much of the history of?
I know one part, Port Elizabeth, but that's the only part. A lot of my family are there. Right. But then I also have a lot of family in America.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, whereabouts?
Both sides of the family. So Florida.
Wow.
And then New York, there's some. But I don't know the ones in New York.
Could be good to get to know them. So
yeah, definitely.
Widens up the potential for some more holidays, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
You could have some good holidays, Jamaica and New York.
Yeah,
and Florida. So, so what do you feel are the benefits of Essex then?
I think the benefits is that it's very different to other parts of the UK.
Yeah.
It's quiet, but then you also get a bit of everything. You get the quietness, but then you also get the city life. Like, literally just in a short drive away or bus ride, literally you can get into a bustling area and have a bit of everything. Yeah, so that's true. Whereas for some areas, and most in the UK, it's either really, really quiet or really, really busy. And it never quiets down, so you get a bit of everything in Essex.
That's true.
But then also as well, you get the chance to adapt to something different. Especially if you're from a minority ethnic background. Yeah. There aren't many minority ethnic people, so you kind of learn to adapt. Okay. To situations that you wouldn't really put yourself in. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you give me some examples of that?
So like, for example, I've experienced living here, the fact of when you buy food of your culture, there aren't many. Right. So you got to kind of adapt to that and just get used to the fact that you may have to go 10 miles down the road to get what you're used to, or get your hair done, or something like that.
I see.
Or for a church that you want to go to.
Yeah.
Many around this area are pretty white, which for some people, they might not like it. But for someone like myself who's experienced so much, it doesn't bother me because I've had to just adapt.
Okay.
All my life.
So when you were talking about food, give us some examples of that makes it more difficult for you. What you'd consider to be your
cultural food you can barely buy in Essex.
What is that then?
So like, for example, if you wanted to buy rice, peas, chicken and make a meal like that, you'll probably have to go into like Dagenham in order to get that stuff, which is an hour down the road.
Yeah. It's a long way to go to get a dinner, right?
Yes, it is. Or if you want fish, you rarely find fish shops.
Okay.
Except for like the junk food fish shops in Essex. You rarely find like proper fish, fresh fish that you could just cook from scratch.
Right, And so you mentioned being within a minority group within Essex. Have you had any negative experiences of that for yourself? Yes,
I have.
Okay.
So like, for example, when I sometimes go to the shops, and like even it just happened to me last week, I walked into a shop and obviously we're all living in a pandemic. We've all experienced it for 2 years now. And there was this little old lady, she about late 60s. So she was in the queue and she was moving closer and closer to me. And obviously I'm keeping my distance from the person in front.
Of course.
So obviously I turned to her and said, "Excuse me, lady," very politely, wasn't shouting or anything, saying, "Please, could you keep your distance? We're in a pandemic and I'm vulnerable and I don't want to get COVID." And the next thing I hear was, excuse me," from behind the till. "Don't talk to that old lady like that. She works for the Salvation Army. Stop being rude." And I'm thinking, I'm not being rude. I'm just putting this woman in her place.
Yeah, sure.
I don't care about if you're old or young. You need to be put in your place if you're in the wrong.
Yeah,
but then literally they were just, the people working in the shop was like all going on at me, like, she's so rude. And obviously I'm not being rude. I'm very calm. But things like this wouldn't even happen if I wasn't in Essex. And bear in mind, those shopkeepers were all white and everyone in the shop was white. So I knew that wouldn't happen to someone else.
Right.
If a white person turned to that lady and said, and put her in her place, it would be fine. But because I'm black, people don't expect a black person or someone of a minority ethnic background to voice their opinion or put someone of a different minority ethnic background in their place.
So would you say sometimes it can be quite subtle then?
Yeah, definitely.
So you couldn't pinpoint it as being overtly racist, could you? Because they would defend it on the fact that they would say
indirectly.
Yeah. So does that make you have to navigate life differently, do you feel? Are you aware of it a lot or?
I'm aware of it quite a lot. So there's a lot of things I avoid in Essex. So for example, I don't wear certain types of clothing because I know that if I do, I'm more likely to be stopped by police, even if I'm not doing anything wrong, which I don't partake in any activities that would raise alarm bells. But I know that just from the colour of my skin and people's previous experiences, that is a possibility if I wear certain clothing.
Yeah. What?
So tracksuits. If I wear a tracksuit, a cap, and trainers, I'm more likely to be stopped there if I was wearing a dress and looking like more girly and feminine.
Sure. Yeah. How does all that stuff make you feel?
I'm kind of used to it because I've had to kind of deal with it my whole life. But it does upset me, and I wish it didn't have to happen, but it does.
Do you have hope for the future in terms of people's change? You know, there's a big movement, isn't there, of change at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's genuine?
I think there could be change, but in some areas, not really. Because even just a year ago, the Black Lives Matter in Essex, like where I'm based, which is south, there was no awareness of Black Lives Matter. You would think nothing was even going on an hour down the road. Literally, everyone's just going about their normal lives as if everything was all fine. Yeah. But an hour down the road in London, people are going crazy because it's something that they care about. So I think in cities and places in the UK that are more diverse and will always be that, there can be change. But I think in Essex it needs to become more diverse for people to really see it more.
So you feel that there's still a lack of diversity?
Definitely.
In Essex?
Because even when there is diversity, it's only people coming from London who are forced out. Yeah. They don't choose, I'm going to buy a house in Essex. But it's because they don't feel welcome or comfortable sometimes. Okay.
Can you explain that to me a bit more?
So like sometimes they may be treated in a different way. So for example, I've met many people who go to school here from a young age. They're secondary school age and they're literally the only one in their class of a minority ethnic background. Yeah. Of a class of like 60, 70. Yeah. And with that being the case, that means they can't like talk about some subjects because it may offend other classmates, but if you can't talk about some subjects that may impact a certain minority, then people will think, what's the point of me going to school then if I'm not going to be able to voice my opinion? Yeah. Because of all the like free speech, but you can't offend anyone. But it's not really fair, that rule, because it also impacts a certain minority and not another.
Okay. Yeah. So expand on that for me a bit then.
So like, for example, if you were doing something about like education and if a minority ethnic pupil wanted to do something about racism, obviously, if you're in a school or class with all white people, what you may voice in that piece of work may offend some of them. So the teacher is more likely to say, no, could you please change that? Because it may offend people, but that's if they want to do something like that, let them, but then they can't because of where they live.
Right. I get it, yeah. So in terms of your hope for the future, you know, what do you think could bring about change for people?
I think just more education. Yeah. More education. And then over time it will help. Yeah. In all areas, whether that be employment, in education. Because even for me in Essex, I've lived here 3 years. I see shops like advertising, volunteering. I do forms, but I never get a response back. Right. And I take the form in myself, but I never get a response back. And then months after, when I hear nothing from them, but I still see a sign outside their shops, volunteers needed, I go into them and say, oh, excuse me, why haven't I heard anything back? I've not heard anything back. And then I remembered recently I done that and a woman said, oh, people go on Indeed now. People go on Indeed. But when I applied, she gave me a form and said, bring that back and you can get volunteering. Yeah. But it's like, I think, obviously I'll never know, but it's probably because I'm black. Yeah. Because then I also walked into that shop and saw actually a new volunteer. Yeah. She was white. Right, yeah. But me, I didn't even hear back. Yeah. And I had to literally go in there and ask, and then they said, oh, maybe you'll hear back. Bye-bye. Yeah. So it can be awkward sometimes, even for jobs. Of course. Hard to find a job because you're literally fighting against people who are also likely to have higher qualifications because they live in more affluent areas. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. So in terms of your own personal future, where you are now, and obviously you can come and volunteer for us. Let's make that point straight away. So you can come and help us with the Breathing Space projects. I know you've been brilliant there. Yeah. You know, Rob's been speaking very highly of you helping out. What's your hopes for the future now?
Focused on my education mainly. Yeah. Get to uni and then go into journalism. Cool. And volunteer in my free time and give back to those less fortunate than myself.
Right. That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. Definitely.
And what about in terms of where you're living now? Are you still in the semi-supported accommodation at the moment?
No, so I've now gone independent when I turned 18 last December. So that'll be long term now. And I'll be in Basildon for the long term. So
are you staying?
I love Basildon. Yeah.
You do?
Here to stay.
Cool. What's the good things about Basildon then?
Probably, I think for me, the main thing, community. You do have a community here. Yeah. Especially when you're here for a long time. So, yeah.
Tell me about your community now.
So like, even just for me, like, whenever I go out, people actually recognise me from the things I've done in Basildon, which never happened anywhere I've lived because I'm so active in volunteering and different things. Literally, I walk down the street to go to a shop. Hi Rachel, I'm thinking, what? How do you know me?
Yeah.
From people who I don't even know and I've never met. But they all know me. Yeah.
So what stuff have you been doing then?
So
to become
recently,
famous in Basildon?
So I've done the What Tyler activities with you guys. And then also I done this creative arts festival called Creative Basildon, People and Places, which takes over 7 empty units across the town with different workshops from music to art, all from creatives within the Essex area.
That sounds brilliant.
Yeah. And that was a 6-week programme that was from May to June, and it will be coming back in the winter. So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's keeping you busy then.
Yeah.
Sounds really good.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of our kids could benefit from that. So that'd be brilliant.
Because I volunteered. I was one of 6 volunteers for it, so it was really good.
Wow.
And it's something I can put on my CV now, so useful.
So I'm interested about you saying about community, and without putting words in your mouth, you feel that you found community in Basildon?
Definitely, yeah.
Do you have a sense of being part of?
Yeah, definitely, and it's a place that I'm actually confident and happy to call home now after 3 years, which is really nice because even though I've lived in all these different places, I've been there for such a short time and I've not immersed myself in the community or had the opportunity to, like I have Basildon. So I love it so much.
That's really, really good to hear. And, you know, we'll obviously, hopefully people will get to hear your story.
Yeah.
And Basildon doesn't always get that much of a positive.
No, it definitely doesn't. No.
So Rachel, you're a voice of positiveness today for Basildon, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
So have you got anything else you'd like to add?
No, nothing else really. But I've just enjoyed today interviewing and being a part of it.
It's been brilliant talking to you.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know, what we're going to try and do is maybe learn a little bit more about your places of heritage. So if you're up for that, potentially we've got somebody who's working for the Essex Records Office, working on the project, so they could do a bit more work around, you know, Jamaica and Florida and New York with